Welcome to another Get Chatty with Matty. We've got Sam Fisher here again. And for all of you who know, Sam Fisher was the guy who started this whole series off. We did it on Telegram, so the video quality wasn't as good. Obviously, you can see now it is good. And just thank you for coming back on, Sam Fisher.
No worries. You're welcome.
Now, this time, guys, as you know, I always ask the guests when they come on the first time the 3 icebreaker questions. Now, he's already had those icebreaker questions, so we won't be asking them. But we have had a question that I don't know whether this will be able to go on YouTube or the answer to this, but a question that's come in from members, people who have subscribed to the channel, and a few people have asked this same question, Sam. Now, you know, I've told you there's a question, but I've not told you what it is on purpose because I want to get the authentic response here. Now, basically, the question is, like, sometimes David Icke, this was the guy that was brought up quite a lot. They're not comparing you to David Icke, but David Icke will go through things and he'll never tell you who the people are in charge. So I don't know whether this is the greatest way to start it, but the question is, can you please tell us the names of people who are running this show? What a way to start, Sam.
Yeah, right. The actual names of the people, it's a bit hard to pin down. The name of the family is the Picer family, and we know that from all sorts of different sort of sources, mainly the LCP Foundation, or what used to be the LCP Foundation, which is the trust that he set up in 1920, 1922. And that started just handing money out to businesses left, right, and centre. Like I said, they bought both stock exchanges of London and of New York. That slowly changed its name again and again. It was then the American Association of Banks, and then that changed again in the 1970s. What Vanguard is now is basically the old LCP. That's what it used to be. It used to be the Lewis Cass Picer Foundation, the actual Vanguard in a nutshell.
Say that, Sam, just because I'm going to make sure everybody gets this. So it's the LCP Foundation,
the Lewis Cass Picer Foundation. That's what it was.
That was the name. That was the name you mentioned in the last one as well, didn't you?
Lewis Cass is one of the last ones that we can trace, and then they went kind of dark, but they keep popping up here and there every now and again. Who it is now? He supposedly went to his daughter Eleanor. But it turned out that Eleanor Picer was one of the decoy family, so I found out. He had another daughter called Marguerite, and she had a grandson, and it went to her grandson, I believe. And his name, off the top of my head, I've completely forgotten. But he went to him, all of his foundation when Lewis Cass died. And basically his line is, well, his side of it now is now run it ever since.
And what is this, Sam? What is this? Is this when you say it's the Pacer family? So what is this? Is this like a trust that was set up in the 20s? Is this a corporation?
Basically, Lewis Cass could see what was happening to John D. Rockefeller and decided he was going to do the same. So he started putting everything into trust. He started leasing out a lot of his land. In fact, this is another way we know that the Picers are still around, because the 99-year leases that he set up with all these different companies and whatnot, they've been starting to come up. Basically, they started to run out all these leases that set up left, right, and centre, and you can see them all panicking to try and get back on. Otherwise, they'll just take the land back. Simple as. That's it. The land belongs to them, what they built the company on, so that's it. The United Nations building is one of them. Yeah.
Really? Are you serious?
Oh, seriously. There's all these buildings, there's all these companies left, right, and centre that they've borrowed money off him with these 99-year leases that he's given them, and now they're calling them all back in. I think this is one of the reasons why the Vatican is trying to get all the money back in. Yeah, it's because they're going to end up just basically having to give up the land where all the churches are and everything else. So, yeah.
Wow.
But like I said, they're descended from French royalty. They were French nobility, and this is where all the Merovingian crowns come into play. You'll notice that there's it's France, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Britain, and I think Italy are trying to set up a pseudo sort of separate EU system at the minute to try and basically get Britain back into the EU, but doing it stealthily. It's all with these Merovingian families. So it's like, okay, right, we know what's going on here. Yeah. Well, then you get the Rothschilds that run they run the banks for them. They don't actually own the banks, if you get what I mean. So you'll notice for the Rothschilds, they're all sort of investment holding firms and investment banks, and stuff like that, where they just hold money and assets. They don't actually have any of their own. And this is how you can tell that they're not actually the owners of those banks, and it's money from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I forgot the guy's name, but
so they like caretakers, the Rothschilds. Sam.
Yeah,
are they like caretakers of the money, basically?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Well, to keep everything running the same way as it was before, they just kept the financial system running out the City of London like it always has been. Yeah. And the Rothschilds banks are the most sort of well known and popular. You know what I mean? With the more elite types and everything else. So they just kept it running through there, basically. And then you get the Sassoons. Now, this is the other side of the nine. I mentioned them last time. They're rabbis, Messianic Judaism rabbis, so that they basically believe in a Messiah coming, not necessarily ours, you know what I mean, but there is one coming, and very sort of apocalyptic, if you get what I mean. Yeah, they're the ones that have been trying to sort of call in this end time sort of scenario. They're obsessed. Yeah, they're obsessed. Absolute nut jobs. But they
what did you say there? So they're trying to call in the end times. So they'd be happy in it. They'd be happy burning in the fire.
Their idea is that if the quicker they can bring in the end times, the quicker their Messiah can turn up. Yeah, can come in. Yeah. Now, they are crazy. I mean, you can tell they're crazy. They've advised every Israeli president, their family has, since Israel was set up, their family has been the chief advisor of every Israeli president since then. Yeah. Like I said, they own the opium trade also. It's a very sort of, not very nice people, completely insane. When people go on an anti-Semitic sort of trip, it's more to do with them and how they steer Israel, if you get what I mean. Yeah, they're using Israel to basically bring in this end times, yeah, by just painting them as the scapegoats and just generally steering them in that sort of direction. You know what I mean? It's insane. It's insane. There's actually footage of them. It's a while ago now. It's been doing the rounds on social media all over the place, and it's a hot mic of Netanyahu talking to them, and they're going on about what you're doing well, my son. You know what I mean? We're steering in the right way. Blah blah blah. It's like, whoa. I mean, these guys are just cold, absolutely cold and insane. Yeah. But they're like the highest sort of ranking rabbis in Israel. Yeah, they run the place basically. They run the place. Every Israeli president has had them as their advisors. They've basically done what they've said. I forgot what it was called now. There's a flotilla going to Gaza. I think it was around 2010, maybe 2009, 2010. Could have been before. And it was raided by a load of Israeli troops, saying that there was basically Palestinian spies on board. There were all reporters, a lot of them. There's a guy called Ken O'Keefe, I think he's called. He's an ex-military guy that was on there. And the boat that he was on, it was raided by an outfit called Shite 13. Now, Shite 13 are the Jewish equivalent of the SAS, basically. Yeah, they're the special forces group, and one of their main tasks is to guard the Sassoons, like it's personal guard for the Sassoons. So it's obviously on their sort of say so that they've gone and done this. You know what I mean? So that's how sort of how powerful they are. But they control the Vatican as well. Yeah, I mean, basically the entire system runs through 3 different cities. Yeah, you've got the City of London, which is your financial hub. I think I mentioned this before.
Yeah, said it on the last one, but repeat it again for people.
Yeah, Washington DC, which is your legal and enforcement hub. So you get all your.
What was that one? Washington DC.
Yeah, which is your legal and enforcement hub. The enforcement part is the military. Yeah, it's the military arm, and then you get the Vatican, which is the religious hub. Yeah, where that's basically how they can run a global society, is just through 3 separate sort of hubs, and everything branches out from there. Yeah, there's three pillars to a society that you need, which is your legal, or some sort of recourse, for bad things that other people do. Your financial, which is trade, and then your religious, which is just basically your morality. And from those 3 pillars, everything else stems. So all your medicine, all your education, science, all that, all stems out from those 3 pillars. Yeah, the foundational pillars. That's basically how they run the world. Yeah.
So would you say then that the Pacers were more on the financial side, the Sassoons are more, even though they're over in Israel, they're more on the military, or are they all interlinked? And also, what's the third family?
Well, it's the Pacers, the Rothschilds, and the Sassoons that are basically up there at the top. The Rothschilds, they actually serve a dual purpose, and it took me a long while to work this out. If you think of them like a father, mother, and child family, in tradition it was the father that earned the money, and then it was the mother that held the purse strings and actually spent the money, or doled out loans or anything else like that. And then the spiritual side, the child side, was the one that was learning off the father and the mother, which is why it's the basis of religion, basically, to learn from your morality from your father and mother in a spiritual sort of sense. The mother was also whenever someone new came to the household, the mother was the public face, the first one that you saw. And she was the one who said you could go and meet the father. The father dealt with, like I said, the financial side of things, actually gave people loans, or sanctioned marriages, or just laid down the law if needs be. But it was always the mother that you saw first, and it was her that you had to get past. And she was the public face of the family. And this is the dual role that the Rothschilds play. They play the public face of the actual Trinity at the top. In other words, they're a kind of a decoy. They'll allow you access to the father if you can sort of impress them and get past them, if you get what I mean. And this is why so many people get stuck with the Rothschild family all the time. But
so they're like the mother, you'd say.
Yeah. They're like the mother. Family. Yeah,
the Pacers like the father.
Father family.
And the Sassoon, are they like the father as well?
No, they're like the child. They're the spiritual aspect. Yeah, they're the spiritual aspect of it. Because
of course, because they're the rabbis.
Yeah,
right, got you.
Yeah, and that's how they basically can. That's how 9 people can run the world. It's just working through those 3 things. Yeah,
damn. Can I just say that is one of the best ways I've ever heard that explained, mate. That is really good. And I've seen things like that myself, where I've worked at companies, and I might have spoke to you about this before, but there was a boss of the company, massive worldwide organisation. The boss, the next one down from him, and the next one down from him. They knew most of the stuff that was going on, and then as it filtered down to different directors, by the time you got down to the bottom, nobody has a clue what this person's doing over here or there. And I saw it live with my own eyes, working in action in the corporate world. So. You're right. It would be very easy to do that. So that's the 3 names then. For the ones, are there any other names that behind them or specifics? That I know that's what's going to happen. We're going to get more messages.
Well, if you trickle down from them 3, you get the main Merovingian bloodlines. I actually did a slide presentation at the end of my Richard Seed video. But off the top of my head, there's the Italian ones, which are descendants of the Genoan and Venetian bankers, which are your Orsini's, your Zenos, your Medicis, Borgias, your Bembos, Cottolini. Then you get your Swedish and Finns and Norwegian, the Norwegian royal family. I've forgotten the surname. You get your Rusal Hellmaster, which is a sort of bridging family between the Norwegians and the Swedish, and then you get the Savoys, which are a bridging family from the Finns and the Italians. You get the Brins, Wallenbergs. There's loads. I mean, there's loads and loads of families, and they sort of branch down, and they all have sort of different aspects of what they do. You know, the Wallenbergs are big into AI and biotech and stuff like that. Yeah, they have a lot to do with what's been going on. I think what's been going on.
And who are those? What's the name of those people?
So, the Wallenbergs. If you look at Wallenberg Foundation on the internet, you'll find loads of stuff on the stuff with AI and microchip technology, biochip technology, biotechnology in general. You know what I mean? They're very much into all that. I think that's who was funding Richard Seed in the first place with all his cloning. If you don't know who Richard Seed was, he was a physicist and fertility expert, bizarrely, and he figured out human cloning, or he thought he figured out human cloning. And he just arrived on the scene in 1998 and said, "I can do it in 2 years. I just need $2 million to do it." And then all of a sudden he disappeared for a while after that. And then he came back, and when someone asked him about it, when they were doing an interview, he was very sort of coy and saying, "Look, I've been running into a couple of problems here and there. Yeah, stumbling blocks I can't get past at the moment, but I'm working on it. And then not long after that, he died. So it's like he didn't actually give up his secrets, but he was working with a lot of people, a good few people. Now, who they were, it's up for debate. But a lot of his techniques have been and are still being used at the moment. Yeah. Whether the people who took over his research have actually got over the stumbling blocks, and that's a different matter. I don't know. But a lot of his techniques and a lot of his work were being used with the vaccines and all sorts of other stuff. Yeah. It was very, very. He was a weird fella, a really weird bloke. There's a famous clip of him where he says, "We shall be like gods, and if you don't like it, get out the way." Yeah, and that sort of mentality is the kind of mentality that's very attractive to those at the top, those at the very top. Yeah,
wow.
And he was meaning cloning, but his motivation was more. It's strange. He was a very, very devout Methodist, and the two things don't really go together. Yeah, trying to clone people and sort of his religion. And
do you think it was a cover?
No, it wasn't. No, I think his intentions were that he wanted to do it for the good of humanity and damn the consequences. Yeah, I think he thought that it was basically God's plan to get us to this level, and he was going to help us get to that level. He wanted to accelerate the process, or be the one that was going to do it for his sort of Lord and Savior. You know what I mean? He was a proper mad genius. He really was. Fascinating bloke. Yeah, I think he could kind of, not completely, but kind of equate him to a sort of genetic engineering version of Tesla in a way that he was thinking. He was very, very ahead of his time in a lot of the things that he did. And
unfortunately, he died. Unfortunately, he died.
Yeah.
When did he die? A few years back.
2004, I think, 2005, something like that. I mean, 1998, he was what, 72, I think, when he burst onto the scene saying he was going to have a clone done in a couple of years. I think it was about 72, something like that. So yeah, it was about 78, 80 when he died. Yeah.
Wow. I've got a question for you here, Sam. That you've mentioned a lot of families there, and you mentioned, I can never say the word correctly, the Merovingian
Merovingians
lines.
Yeah.
And I take it they would go back years and years and years.
Oh,
they
yeah.
could trace themselves all the way
Yeah.
back. So, you know, as you know, I've had Paul Cook on. We had a little conversation on the resets that seem to keep happening every 100, 150 years. So
Yeah.
I've got a bit of an interlinked question here, because see, if these families do keep going back, and these resets do keep happening, that would mean that their families would have seen the previous resets.
Yeah,
they would
probably
have to have done.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So a lot more people know what's going on than what we think. Then sometimes that's possibly.
I mean, as far as I can tell, the Merovingians run well. The most famous one of them is Charlemagne. Yeah, everyone knows about Charlemagne the Frank, and he was the first sort of Holy Roman Emperor. Yeah, and the Merovingian line supposedly dissolved after that, but then you see them cropping up all over the place, and still in France, you just changed the name. Basically, that's all they did. Yeah,
deep hole.
That's all they did. Yeah, they got sort of ousted and then just came back as a different family. It's just crazy. But anyway, they all stem from. Now I've mentioned errata lots and lots of times. Yeah, but when you sort of track them all back, everything sort of stems back from that time, from errata. Yeah, which is at the earliest. I've worked out that they're probably about roughly earliest 8,000 years old, and that's when they sort of disappeared at that 8,000 year period around that time, and that's when the Black Sea basin filled up. Yeah. Now, when they got there, it can be anything from 8,000 years to 60, 70, 80,000 years maybe. Yeah, and then from there you can track them all back to stemming from the top going round, the Scandinavian countries, and from the bottom going down through France and meeting up in Errata. We started off at Doggerland. I think that's where it all began. Doggerland is the land bridge between. It's now the English Channel. Basically, that was above water at one point till about roughly about 30,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, maybe. Yeah. But that basically filled up. There was one lot of tribes that went to Britain. They were wiped out by a tsunami. Part of the coastline of Norway actually collapsed into the sea, and this was about. I think it's about 20,000 years ago. I'll have to check. But basically, that wipes out a good portion of the top half of the UK. Yeah, a lot of the tribes that were there, and then you get the other ones. There was some that went through France and came through the bottom Mediterranean sort of region around this way, and the others that went through Scandinavia that were on the northeastern corner. They all sort of met up in Errata, and that's where they built that civilization there. And when they collapsed, they spread out everywhere. I mean, everywhere. They basically founded all the southern Mediterranean sort of civilizations that way, all the Middle Eastern civilizations that way. So the Sumerians actually stem from the Errata, and all the Indus Valley sort of civilizations, and all your Chinese and the Japanese basically just flooded out when that collapsed. That sort of the Erratan civilization there, and then you get the other ones that set up the Atlanteans and everything else, and they collapsed and then spread out again, and it's just one sort of. But it all, like I said, it all stemmed from just this one civilization. So it's looking like at the minute, as far as I can work out.
Because I was going to ask you a question then, but you already answered it. So I was going to say, church came first, was the Eratans first, and then the Sumerians. So from your research, does everything stem from Errata outwards from there? Was there any civilization before them that you found?
Well, like I said, there was the Doggerland one that I think the Eratans stemmed from. Yeah.
Was that tribes though, or was that a civilization?
I think that was more tribes. From what they found from dredging, the English Channel, they found like lots of artwork, sort of mammoth bones and rhino horns that have been sort of etched and carved and everything else. A lot of mastodon skeletons clearly show sort of butchering and all sorts of other stuff. So they know there was definitely settlements there. Yeah. As for how big they were, it's a bit unclear. Yeah. But there was, like I said, there was definitely civilizations there. They know they were related to the first lot of people that actually settled the British Isles. Yeah, before they were wiped out by a tidal wave. Yeah, the next lot were the Phoenicians. They ended up settling in the UK, and they were the ancestors of the Celts. Yeah, the actual Celtic tribes that came after
before
that.
The Eratons. Was that before the Eratons or after?
This is after. This is a long time after when the Celts got there. Yeah, yeah.
Just so I can piece it all together in a timeline. So I'll just go this one.
No worries. Well, yeah, the Phoenician tribes. They're hard to pin down because no one's actually sure of an actual sort of nation for them. But I've got a sneaking suspicion that they're probably derived from the Eratons and not from the Sumerians. I think the Phoenicians are a lot older than people realise, a lot older than people think. Yeah. Well, this is where you get all your Exodus sort of, or your Exodus stories and all your flood myths. Yeah, there's been like 8 or 9 different floods. Yeah, and each one has seen a migration, and each migration has been retold through that culture, and then they've added to it with the next one and the next one and the next one. So your Moses figure could be like 8 or 9 different people. Yeah, but then you get your 12 tribes of Israel that all of sort of all of the nations stem from. This is something a lot of people get mixed up. The Israelites weren't Jews. Yeah, the Israelites were all of us. Yeah, we're everyone else. The actual Jews stem from 2 tribes, which is Benjamin and Judah. Yeah, that's it. They're the only 2 that make up the Jewish people. Yeah, the rest of them stemmed off to the rest of the Middle East that make up the Arabs. Yeah, like Northern Europe, Southern Europe, and like I said, the Phoenicians. It's been all but confirmed they stem from the tribe of Dan, supposedly. Yeah, this is what a lot of researchers say. I tend to believe that. You know what I mean? It's kind of right, I suppose, in a way. It's the best sort of best explanation I've heard yet. So we'll stick with that. And then, like I said, they travelled up to Britain. But for some reason now, this is something I've never been able to work out. But the Phoenicians and Merovingians could never get on. Yeah, there was something about them that ended up made them start warring with each other. Yeah, and this is when the Merovingians took over took over France. Yeah, you had all them building up there, and then you had Britain building up here with a load of Phoenicians, and all of a sudden they're arguing, and then next thing you know, boom, they're clashing all the time. But and this rivalry's gone on since. Yeah, since then. But we've had at least three Merovingians that have been on the throne in the UK.
Who are they?
Monarchy.
I've got to stop you there. I'm going to stop you at each point. Who are they? Yeah. Name them.
Right.
Name.
William the Conqueror was the first, and then his descendants. Basically, there was 2 descendants, and then they got ousted by a Saxon guy whose name absolutely escapes me at the minute. That was in the roughly. It was just before the first plague, so around 1350, when the Saxon king came in and sort of like took over, and then he was ousted a few centuries later. But there's been a tussle with Britain a lot. I think the last Phoenician was Harold, the last one that was any sort of distant relative to the Phoenician like sort of tribes was Harold. And it was our last monarch really that was part of that line. And then, like I said, it's been Merovingian, it's been Saxon, it's gone left back and forth. I don't think we've had anyone that's actually been a native Brit since. Like, you know what I mean? It's just changed hands lots and lots and lots. And there's been several sort of deposings and revolutions against them. And
so you see if we're Sam, if a bit of a question for you. So you say if we take the timeline that we've been given and we say, right, 2,000 years ago, this people were here, 2,000 before that, 2,000 before that, 2,000 before that. So if we're to believe the timeline, because I know some people do question it, because it is coming from people who have lied about lots of other things, but that's still a huge amount of time for those same stories to be happening, for those societies to be happening. So how many times has this been massively reset? How many times has civilization fallen, if we're to believe it? I mean, does it and why, Sam? There's another question that I'm starting to ask people. Why? What's the reason for all this? What do you think? So, a couple there for you.
A lot of it, I think, is more to do with cataclysms more than anything else. We've had a very sort of cataclysmic past, and that's told through our ancient history a lot. You know what I mean? Different flood, like I said, the different flood mist, comet strikes. They think that was one that actually that started the Dark Ages. And when they say Dark Ages, they're not joking. They do mean dark, as in literally the sky went black and it was dark for like decades. Yeah. Wow. And this is there was no crops growing. There was very little sort of work being done because everyone was worrying about sort of feeding themselves. So there wasn't a lot really written down. So a lot of the folk tales are based on actual events as well. Yeah, and it's tracking all them back and working them out. Because quite a few of them stem from that Dark Age period, and it was felt everywhere. It's felt everywhere. Like most ancient cultures go on about it, and that was in roughly around the same time as the first plague, the first bubonic plague that hit in the end of the 1300s, mid to end 1300s, and this is where you get a lot of your. For some reason, this is where you get a lot of your Arthurian tales, a lot of Arthurian legend, because people need someone for hope, you know what I mean, a hero to look after him. So he's gone off looking for the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant to sort of bring back the light, if you get what I mean. Yeah. So a lot of very ancient sort of legends were then tied into this sort of medieval sort of folklore after that. Yeah. I truly believe that the Eratans were far more technologically advanced than we are, and this is from stuff that we found at Kabardino-Balkaria, which is an area of Russia that's on the border of Georgia. What I've mentioned Thumper before, one of the researchers on the page, but what he's found inside,
he's a good guy.
And honest to God, when we've seen this and we've both gone, this is immense. I mean, it's huge. So, we can't work out whether it's some sort of pump, gravity pump in the way that it's constructed, or it's an irrigation system or both, but it definitely uses water in some way, shape or form,
What is it, Sam? What is it that you discovered that part cut out? Is it
Right. It's basically a structure that's hidden inside a mountain, right? It was found in 2017 by a couple of Russian guys. One of which is dead now. He was only 40 odd, and he died not long after discovering this. Right? They found it going through a shaft, in the top of the mountain, and it's sort of this shaft. It splits off one way and goes into a 300 to 400 foot sort of rectangular chamber. That's obviously cut out. Inside this chamber, I mean, obvious. It's right angled edges. You can see sort of machine marks on it, all sorts, mate. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Have you got pictures of this that you can send so I can put it up at this part?
There's a video on YouTube. I'll send you the link for the video. Yeah, I'll take some shots out of it as well, where they actually show you.
Because I might get the vid banned for that, but I want this on here because this is epic.
I mean, there's also another shaft that goes next to it, right? That goes at right angles, going all the way down in certain sort of areas, and it's blocked off at the bottom by. They said it was part of the wall that slid down. Now, I was looking at something that the not only the Middle Eastern tribes were doing, but also the South Americans were doing. They were making what's called a canat, which is an artificial underground lake. Yeah. What they did was they drill holes, going all the way down to where they wanted this lake to go, and they sort of dig round to an aquifer, and they use gravity and air, to sort of suck it through, like the actual air shafts would start sucking the water through this aquifer, and it goes like directly where they wanted it to go. That was just unbelievable, this, right? From this mountain, right, which is slap bang in the middle, right, between the Black Sea on one side and the Caspian Sea on the other, right?
Yeah.
Coming out from this mountain are lakes, right? Round lakes in a straight line going all the way across each way, right? They don't know how deep these lakes go. They haven't got a clue. There's nothing living in them. A few of them are acidic, yeah, which what happens when you're washing ore to do strip mining and stuff like that, yeah, it gets acidic, yeah. And I mean, these lakes are huge, and they're going out in a line, going all the way through, yeah. And there's this thing in the middle of them all, right? Now, I showed you them pictures last week of the strip mine, didn't I? Last time,
yeah.
The strip mine, the way it goes down, and everything else, and then the picture of the Black Sea, right?
Yeah.
There's loads and loads and loads of sort of myths, Sumerian myths, Greek myths, Vedic myths, loads of them going on about sort of a massive sort of mine, what sounds like a mining operation, yeah, going on in an area. The Sumerians say it was across a couple of mountain ranges and across this flat plain, and then you get to a really fertile land, right? Mm-hmm. What's Ukraine famous for? It's fertility.
Fertile land, acidity of soil.
Exactly, exactly. And then you get the Black Sea, right, which they know wasn't a sea until, like I said, about 8,000 years ago, yeah, when it filled up, when the Black Sea basin filled up, right? And you look at the way it stays going all the way down, right? And then you look at the Caspian Sea. Now, the Caspian Sea's been losing water. Well, I'm going off for decades, and they don't know why it's been losing water, right? I think that was a spillway, yeah, for the irrigation system for the Black Sea. They emptied it all out either into the Caspian Sea, or they ran it into the Caspian Sea and ran it back. So you had a complete sort of running water system, irrigation system running all the time through the
whole circuit.
Yeah, like a whole circuit, yeah. And the Caspian Sea was like the spillway for it, and it came back through that pump, and then back through, yeah. But I mean, there's so much. That is one of the things that made me just sit there and think, we've got it, yeah. And now I'm sort of placing all the different sort of anomalous sites and all the different archaeological sites that are turning up around that time period, all around the Black Sea, and there's hundreds, absolutely hundreds. Absolutely.
Sam, I'm gonna look forward to watching the vid when you're showing all that, mate. Oh my good lord, goodness gracious, that would be massive.
Well, that last one that I just did for YouTube, that recap one, I was just recapping what I was doing in Ukraine, and then I was saying I was going to spread out from there. But I mean, there's I think there may have been possibly 3 different sort of technological civilizations running at the same time, maybe, especially towards the end with the Rata. Yeah, I think like I said, they're spread out, but I think before the Black Sea basin filled up and after, I think part of the South American sort of civilizations may have turned up from an offshoot of them. Like I said, the Atlanteans are probably part of them. I think a lot of people say that they were in the Atlantic and in the Azores, but the Eye of Africa and Mauritania, it's just like no, that looks just too. It's just got everything that Plato described, yeah, as the Eye of Africa. So I'm really firmly committed to that. But it could just be a colony of theirs. You know what I mean? They've been in the Azores, I don't know. And then you get sort of the Indus Valley ones that, like I said, spread out from them afterwards as well. But this seems to be one of the main sort of hubs of where they were. It's just, I mean, the amount of sites that are all around there, all around that area. You got all the Göbeklis in Turkey, Göbekli Tepe, Göbekli. I always get the name wrong. I can never say it right. Hanuman or something like that, right? They found another one 2 months ago. Yeah, Turkish names are a pain in the bum. Same as a Russian one. You get the Romanian ones. There's just been ruined settlements found off the coast of Romania, the Black Sea coast of Romania. The Sarachina in Bulgaria. That the Russians they dug a hole all the way down into this sort of I forgot what they were looking at. They were looking for a guy called King Samuil, which was the first sort of Bulgarian king, and he hid a treasure which the Russians were after. They found out off a few psychics, they said, right? So these documents say where his treasure was, and they got led to this area. They dug all the way down. It was something like about 500 feet down into what they thought was going to be a treasure chamber, and it turned out it was a tunnel system with a spiral staircase going all the way down, and there's all sorts of stuff, right, that they say in this document, in this Russian document, that sounds exactly like what they've been finding in Arata for the Aratan ruins. Yeah, and it's just like, okay, that's something to do with that. Yeah, but then a load of really weird stuff happened when they were down there. Really weird stuff. Most of the people died that were there. There was only a couple of officers that lived and went back to. They were KGB officers. I think they killed everyone.
Wow. And is this all in that Russian document?
Yeah, it's all in that Russian document. Yeah, sorry, it's the Sarachina incident. Yeah, if you put that into Wikipedia, you'll find a Wikipedia page that's full of shit, right? But it does give you some good links, right? And if you follow them links, it'll take you to the actual information. Yeah, it's one thing about
and that's in, and you say that's Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, and so this Ararat, if I'm saying that right, civilization,
Arata,
literally seems to have Arata. They seem to have spawned this everywhere. They seem to have done this in quite a wide region.
There's a presentation that I posted. I think you can still find it on YouTube. That I posted on my drops page. It's from 2006, I think, 2007, and it's from people that actually found about the Aratan people. Yeah, but they started going on about this other civilization. They said stemmed from them, called Tripalia, and it's since turned out that that's probably the capital city. That's what it was. Yeah, but they found out that the Aratans they built their cities, yeah, and their settlements always in concentric rings, always with land, water, right? Which is exactly what Atlantis used to do, right? Yeah. So this is how you can tell that they stem from this sort of this civilization, yeah, because they were way before the Atlanteans. They started to find their artifacts all over the Black Sea area. Yeah, this civilization is problematic for a lot of reasons. One of them being is because it proves a lot of what the Sumerians said in the myths, right? That it proves that because the Epic of Gilgamesh goes on about the Arata. Gilgamesh actually sleeps in the ruins of Arata. Yeah, he even says, I slept in the ruins of Arata outside the gates to Upnapishtim, which is this immortal that he wanted to go and get the secrets of immortality off, right? And he said that 3 spirits of the Arata came out the gate and they turned into lions, and I had to fight them, and he had to fight them off, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But he also says that they were very ancient when he got there, right? So obviously they're way before sort of Gilgamesh. Yeah. Then you get the Book of Enki that describes the Arata. It was run by Enki's daughter called Inanna. Yeah. She actually had sort of dominion over that area. And it goes on about a war between her and I think it's Ninurta, his son, who's got another tribe in South Africa. And it's a war that breaks out between them, and that brings in his other son, which is Marduk. It's a massive war that ends in nuclear war and all sorts of other stuff. This is all in Sumerian, sort of in a Sumerian tablet, by the way. It's like 6,000 years old. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. But then you get them also mentioned in the Vedic text. Yeah, they don't name them the Arata. They name something else. I can't for the life of me remember what they're called, but the way they describe them and the area they describe them is exactly where, you know, they've been found in the Black Sea area. Now, to have them do that, to have them also older than the Sumerians, yeah, and technologically advanced, it kind of knackers up the timeline that they've been trying to feed us. Yeah, it's bad enough having the Sumerians there. Yeah, I mean, they were problematic enough, and they had to hide them. Yeah, didn't do a very good enough job. Yeah, so this is why they don't teach you about them in school. Yeah, but they go on. I mean, even the Sumerians go on about the Arata, and now they've turned up, and now they're really sort of panicking because it's just destroying their just everything that they've been putting into sort of established history. Yeah, destroying everything that they've built up, and all this sort of idea that we're the pinnacle of what we can achieve, and everything else, and it's far from it. It's far from it. There was someone that was far more powerful and far more sort of advanced than we are, and they've been robbing us of our potential and our birthright. Yeah, it infuriates me. It really does. It gets me wound up more than anything else. Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff that we could have been doing that they've suppressed and they've stopped because they wanted to keep us held back and keep us held down out of jealousy and out of greed. They wanted it for themselves, obviously. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff there and there's tales that come out of the area, and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, why are they in Ukraine now? Yeah, because they went to Iraq, they went straight to the Baghdad Museum, yeah, and they took everything out of the vaults, nothing out the top, everything out of the vaults. This was after Saddam had found Gilgamesh's tomb and all sorts of other areas that really he shouldn't have done, yeah. And they went straight to the Baghdad Museum and took all of that, yeah, took all of that. I've had testimony off loads of squaddies saying, yeah, we were in there and we were taking tablets out and little cylindrical seals and everything. Yeah, and he said, I don't know what were on them, you know what I mean, but they were taking them. And then about 2018, yeah, it is, yeah. 2018, there was a guy, he bought a tablet. He owned a Bible museum, and he bought a Sumerian tablet in an auction around 2008, 9, something like that. And he had it on display in his Bible museum for like over a decade. Yeah, this tablet, never realizing it was the original Gilgamesh's dream tablet, which is the tablet where he describes where he is, which is outside Arata, and why he's been, going in there, and what he's going to do when he gets in. Yeah, and he lays out the whole area where it is. Right now, a lot of these translations of Gilgamesh's dream are all vastly different from. There's not many people that can read sort of cuneiform script. There's only really a handful of people still that can accurately read it. Yeah, but they're all different with the descriptions, right? And they're working off past descriptions from even older. Yeah, they've never really sort of worked off the original tablet. So if you're looking for something, you're looking for ancient tech, which is what I believe they're doing. Yeah, and I've been doing for a long time, which is why they took all these stuff out of the Baghdad Museum. If you're looking for ancient tech, you'd want the most accurate translation of what that will give you the exact location of what you're looking for. Yeah. And I think that's what they were looking for because the FBI raided him and took it. Yeah, they've known about it for 10 years. It's been on display for 10 years. Yeah, and they came in and took it in 2018. Right?
What?
Yeah, seriously? Exactly. Right? Seriously, they came in and said, right, we're having that because it's part of the Iraqi antiquities. Yeah, it's been illegally sort of robbed and sold. So you're going to have to hand it over. So he's had to hand it over, and he was gutted. But that'll have the most. It's the only tablet with it on, right? With the actual translation on, yeah? So it's taken them a few years, and now Putin's gone in, yeah, to the exact place where the Iraqi capital was, yeah? Mariupol, like when they were telling you about Azovstal last time, yeah, and all the siege and everything else, and they were still letting computer equipment in, still letting people in, civilians in. It's like, why are they doing that? What's going on? Yeah? You've got them taking over the Chernobyl site. There's just so many sort of just weird things about this whole Ukraine war that's made me think they found something. They found something, and they don't want anyone to know about it. Yeah. Now, whether it's
it's epic, mate. Yeah. Because when you're saying this, like, I'm going to bring it back to the first 3 guests I've had, yourself, Paul, and now yourself again. You're all saying very similar things regarding the corruption, what's going on, but you. Like, Paul's digging deep about lots of things across the world right now. Like, how the heck is all this underground? Yeah. You're doing the same. Andy's actually in the Malvern Hills talking about his experiences there. This is very weird, man, how all this is going on. And interestingly, you mentioned Baghdad. Like, I promise you, the podcast that will come out just before this one with Paul, he talks about the people, the US army that was told to blow certain things up, shoot certain things up, get rid of relics.
Do you know what ISIS's main job was, right? It was to get rid of all the evidence. You'll notice that when ISIS went into Syria, and also went into Iraq, they started destroying artifacts straight away. Yeah, that was the first thing that they were doing. And they were destroying any sign of what they were finding. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're only destroying certain specific artifacts all the time. Yeah, and it's certain things with certain inscriptions on, and other stuff. And they do. I think it was. I've forgotten what the guy was called now. Anyway, there's rumours that there was an ancient Vimana that was found in the Afghan mountains. Yeah, a couple of decades ago. And then all of a sudden we get 9/11 and they go into Afghanistan. Yeah, there's been loads of stuff found in Iraq. I mean, that's where the whole Mesopotamia area, like Syria, Iraq, Iran, all of that was Sumerian country. Yeah, and there's loads of artifacts all over the place around there. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why they've absolutely leveled Damascus. Yeah, if you notice, every sort of prophet and every sort of seer, anyone who's like Nostradamus, Baba Vanga, people like that, they all say that the cradle of religion will be destroyed, and everyone thinks that it's Israel. That wasn't the cradle of religion. If you notice, every sort of Bible story, they're all heading to one place on one road, and that's the road to Damascus all the time. Yeah, and they said it would be leveled and turned to ash. And when you look at Damascus now, right, since 2011, it's completely flattened. Yeah, and this is because of the sort of war that the Americans started there. And I think that was because they found something in Syria, they found something in Iraq, and everywhere else, and all around the Middle East. Yeah, that was where they began. Yeah, and now they've spread out all over the place because they're finding even more ancient sites all over. Yeah,
and now we're in Ukraine. That's where they've got to.
Weirdly enough, there was a kick. There was kind of a sort of a bit of kerfuffle between the Serbs and Kosovans. Yeah. Now they haven't had any sort of problems or sort of any sort of kerfuffle since the Bosnian War. Yeah. Now right next to Serbia and Kosovo, obviously, is Bosnia, right? And if them two start kicking off, that'll draw in Bosnia. It's likely to, right? Now you've heard of the Bosnian pyramids, I think, have you?
Yeah. Literally, mate. Paul Cook. Literally, not to bring him up because this is yours, but Paul Cook has just mentioned that. Yeah.
Well, Samir Osmanovic, right? He won't let any sort of university or any sort of company or big tech or any big funders come and fund his research, because he said that'll basically tie him to what they want to let out. Yeah, and he said, I want to make it public domain. Yeah, so this is why he gets people to come in and help him dig. Yeah, and then he just releases all the information he finds. This is very problematic, right, for those guys, our friends at the top, because he's letting out stuff that shouldn't be known. So this is why he's getting smeared left, right, and centre. Yeah, by all these, by people like Zahir Was that no one finds credible anyway. Yeah, or other historians all over the place, and geologists say no, it's not man-made. It's obviously obviously natural, but it's a polymer. It's concrete. What the fuck are you on about? Yeah, I mean, you could tell. Yeah, so obviously the message isn't getting through. Right now, what's the best way of getting poor old Samir to give up his digging at the pyramid? Start a war.
Wow. Why?
Start a war. Then they have to kick him off the site. Yeah, they have to take it for the country. Yeah, just in case it could become a war zone. Yeah, and that's it. You can close it off for however long, however long they want, basically. So
is that what you think they're doing here?
Well, yeah. Anthony Blinken, 3 days before all this kerfuffle started off, Anthony Blinken's the foreign secretary. Yeah, and as soon as he turned up there, 3 days later, they start kicking off. Yeah, the Serbs and the Kosovans. Right now, it's all quieting down. Right. Up to now, but that's what they're staging next. You can see when you watch these guys, you can see the playbook, yeah, and you can see how things go, yeah. It's like with Ukraine, you have Maidan, yeah, the Maidan protest, yeah, and the coup, and then the attacking of the Donbass and the Crimea, yeah, to get them out of that area. They wanted them out of that area because that's where all the sites are, right? Where all the main Ratan sites are. So that's why they wanted them out. That didn't work, so they got the Russians in to start fighting the Ukrainians, right? They're all in on it. None of these guys are playing good guy or bad. Well, they're playing good guy or bad guy, right? But they're all in on the same side, and they're all after the same thing, yeah? They're all after that tech that's in there, yeah? Putin did the same with Crimea, yeah? There was a pyramid found in Crimea, yeah, just outside Sevastopol by a guy called Vitaly Gork. I mentioned him last time, right? this pyramid's under 65 million years of rock. That's what they say. That's what Vitaly Gore said. He said, I can't get to it because it's all the way down there. You drove through it. Yeah. But he found it through he invented a new type of LiDAR, yeah, which is like a laser sort of imaging, ground penetrating sort of technology. Yeah? And he designed it to find water aquifers. So it's very accurate to tell depth of liquids and other sort of rock, rock strata and everything else. So he knows it's there, right? This pyramid, he knows it's definitely there, right? It's just that no one can get to it. But strangely enough, as soon as Putin annexed Crimea, he took over that whole area first, and he put his largest contingent of troops all around that area. And then people are trying to say, no, there's nothing there. There's nothing there, right? But why did he put all his best troops around there? Yeah. Why has he made 8 dives personally, right? A couple in submersible, a couple of scuba gear personally around that area of the Black Sea coast around there, right? Why has he had the St. Petersburg, yeah, and the St. Petersburg Marine Archaeology Department, right? Their department was only set up in 2020, and so far they made 180 dives around that area. Right? It's like, okay, you know what I mean? So
there's something.
Exactly. They found something. Well, they found that pyramid. There was rumours that there might be a whole crescent shape going out into the Black Sea coast, yeah, of them going down. But when you look on Google Earth, you can't see because it's all blurred, of course, yeah. And then you get, like I said, you get Azovstal where the Aratan capital was, yeah. That's under a lot of earth. It is now. And there's catacombs under Azovstal that no one's entirely sure why they've got catacombs or why they're there. Yeah. There's the 3 levels. They stretch out. It's rumoured to go right out into Mariupol. Yeah. But there's that one there where the Aratan capital was. I really do think they found something there. That's why they've got all the right. What's going on there? Yeah. So we know there's another one there, and there's ancient ruins all over the place. There's the Kurgan, what they call the Kurgan of Crimea, which is meant to be a tomb, but it's sort of inside a mound, yeah, as they always are. It splits off into 2 corridors, and they truncate going up. And when you look at I showed it in my latest video, a picture of the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid, yeah, and you look at that, and then you look at these 2 tunnels that there. And they look exactly the same. And it's like, right, okay, looks very similar. So, I mean, there's loads of stuff.
It's epic. And I'm going to say this year, right, made a compelling case, 100% compelling, because there needs to be some reason why they're going into wars to all these places and grabbing relics and blowing things up and doing stuff like that. But what I'm going to say to you is we're going to end it here for that part.
Right.
We're going to get a bit more frivolous, shall we say. So I'm going to say this will be, I've put all of this on YouTube, and we're going to continue now because, so I'm going to say thank you very much for Sam Fisher again for another episode. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
And we're going to continue. We're going to continue on a possibly non-YouTube friendly one right now.